Thank you for taking the time to serve as judge for this Enactus competition. Your role is an important part of the competition process, as your evaluation will help decide which teams most effectively fulfilled the Enactus judging criterion. During this video, we'll review what you will see in the competition rooms and the criterion you'll use to judge the teams. We'll talk about the judging tools that have been designed to assist you in evaluating the teams, and we will review the decision-making and voting process. Throughout the video, we'll provide you with some general notes and thoughts to help you in your role as judge. Thank you. And now here is Desi.
Thank you. Hi, let's get started. We'll begin with the presentation structure that you will see today. Ready? Each competition room is called a league. While you will only be judging the teams in your league, all the teams in every league are subject to the same format and the same rules. Each team has a maximum presentation time of 25 minutes, including an annual report, a live audio-visual presentation, and a question and answer period. Following the team's introduction by the league coordinator, they will have exactly 3 minutes to hand out their annual report and set up their audio and visual equipment. The team cannot begin their presentation before the 3 minutes has expired. This also gives time for you to read their annual report and get familiar with their projects. Following the setup time, the team has up to 17 minutes for their audio-visual presentation. Please know, teams are not required to use the full 17 minutes, and there's no penalty for finishing early. When the presentation has concluded, there will be a 5-minute question and answer period, and that's when you will have an opportunity to ask brief questions of the team. During the Q&A time, please refrain from making lengthy statements or sharing too many praises of the team. Time is limited, and other judges may have questions, so please focus your remarks on asking concise or clarifying questions directly related to the team and its activities. Please know, in addition to their annual report, teams are invited to distribute a membership directory, also referred to as a team bio. However, they are not allowed to distribute any other materials to the judges. If a team chooses to display materials during their presentation, the judges are asked not to touch or keep the displayed materials. If you have questions about the presentation structure, please feel free to speak to the league coordinator or an Enactus staff member during the break. Every Enactus team worldwide works within the framework of this same criterion, which reads, which Enactus team most effectively used entrepreneurial action to empower people to improve their livelihoods in an economically, socially, and environmentally sustainable way? This criterion is the sole basis upon which you will evaluate the teams. While it is a single sentence, we have segmented the criterion into 3 parts to make it easier to understand. The first part speaks to entrepreneurial action. This element speaks to the approach that Enactus teams take in carrying out their projects. Enactus defines entrepreneurial action as taking the opportunity to use sustainable business and sound economic practices to develop innovative business models based on risk, commitment, and a willingness to follow through. While there are many ways to address needs or problems, what distinguishes the Enactus approach is the belief that by applying sound business and economic concepts, we can create lasting solutions. It is important to note that entrepreneurial action does not mandate that a team launch a business or work solely with entrepreneurs. Using entrepreneurial action refers to the innovative or unique way in which the team addresses the need that they have identified for each of their projects. The second part of the criterion is empower people. Teams directly empower individuals when the project beneficiaries take the skills and knowledge they learn during the initial stages of the project and implement them in their lives. A collaborative approach is key when working with the target audiences to ensure long-term empowerment solutions. The third part of the criterion addresses improving livelihoods. While the first 2 parts of the criterion speak to the process that teams take in their projects, improving livelihoods speaks to the outcomes. A livelihood is the means and activities involved in sustaining an individual's life. Livelihoods are fueled by what are known as livelihood assets. There are 5 categories of livelihood assets. Financial assets, the financial resources available to an individual, such as income from a job or access to financial services. Social assets, involving participation in networks, communities, and relationships. Natural assets, the natural resources available to an individual, such as air, water, or land. Physical assets, basic infrastructure and goods, such as shelter, transportation, water supply, sanitation, or energy. Human assets, the skills, knowledge, and ability to work needed to pursue desired outcomes. Livelihood strategies are the methods and processes used to transform those livelihood assets into outcomes. Successful Enactus projects investigate the livelihood assets and strategies currently being used by the target audience during the initial needs assessment. Teams should then work with the target audience to take an entrepreneurial approach to improve the current strategies or develop new, sustainable strategies. Livelihood outcomes are the positive changes the project beneficiaries experience during or after participating in Enactus projects. Livelihood outcomes are not always income-based. Positive livelihood outcomes may be better health, less vulnerability, environmentally sustainable use of natural resources, or food security. In order to understand and evaluate the current livelihood assets, strategies, and desired outcomes, the team must conduct a needs assessment with the target audience before they begin the project. A needs assessment requires communication, understanding, and challenging long-standing assumptions about what outcomes people need. Teams should communicate to you what they learned from their needs assessment and how they took that information into account when designing the project. It is also the responsibility of the team to explain to you the tools they used to assess improved livelihoods for the target audience. During the needs assessment, teams should identify and benchmark the asset categories addressed by the project. This helps the team determine key output and outcome metrics for their projects. Teams may then use these asset categories and outcomes to tell the story of how they used entrepreneurial action to empower people. It is not mandated that every one of their projects address all of the asset categories. It is also not mandated that each team do projects to address each asset category individually. Instead, the categories are a means of looking holistically at the outcomes of the project. Definitions and a list of the livelihood assets can be found in your Judge Handbook. The final section of the judging criterion is economically, socially, and environmentally sustainable. This is in reference to the triple bottom line concept, also known as people, profit, and planet, and is meant to illustrate that for a project or initiative to be truly effective and sustainable, it must make sense economically as well as socially and environmentally. When presenting to you, the team should show that they considered these 3 factors for each project and that no negative impact occurred in any of these areas. Before we review the judging tools, there are a few supporting thoughts that we want to provide you with that should assist you during the judging process. First, let's talk about evaluating the outcome of the team's projects. While some teams may present the results of pre- and post-tests or surveys from their projects, we are asking you to look for results beyond just outputs. If, for example, the results of a survey prove positive change in the target audience's knowledge or skill set, then the question you might ask is, what then? How did these people apply that knowledge to improve their livelihoods? And how was the team able to measure this effectively? The team should demonstrate concrete outcomes and empowerment, not just outputs, were achieved by their target audience for each of their projects. With that understanding in place, there are a few additional points that are important for you as you make your analysis of the teams. Some teams will have projects with multiple phases that might even take place over multiple years. It is important that each team clearly communicate results from the current academic year, not just on ideas, plans, or previous results. Projects that clearly demonstrate improved livelihoods should be evaluated significantly higher than those whose full impact has yet to materialize. It is not uncommon for teams to collaborate with other organizations on projects. It is very important that the team clearly define who they collaborated with and what the team role and contributions were. Teams should clearly report to you the degree of impact they can legitimately and fairly take credit for. Teams are not required to conduct international projects, although it may be impressive to see that some teams are able to impact those outside their home country. International activity should not automatically warrant the team additional credit in your evaluation. Your focus should always be on the relevance, depth, and meaningful impact of the project, regardless of it being international or in the team's home country. And finally, we strongly encourage you to seek clarification during the question and answer session if you feel any aspects of the team's projects, partnerships, and/or outcomes are not clearly defined in their annual report or live presentation. The Judge's Handbook is designed to help you through the evaluation process of each team. Within the document, you will find information on the competition process, the Enactus judging criterion and definitions, individual team evaluation forms, and a cumulative evaluation form. Let's focus in depth on the individual team evaluation and cumulative evaluation forms that you will use in your evaluation and scoring of the teams. The individual team evaluation form is separated into 3 sections: seeing opportunity, taking action, and enabling progress. For each section and the elements within them, the form provides a scale for you to evaluate the success of the team in achieving the particular item. For example, for the first section, seeing opportunity, under this section you will rate the team on their effectiveness in conducting a thorough needs assessment with the target audience. Using the scale of insufficient to excellent, you will evaluate how you felt the team addressed this through their annual report and/or live presentation. As you can see, the form provides you space to give the team valuable insights or suggestions related to their projects and activities. There is also an optional section where you may give constructive feedback on the team's ability to communicate results through their annual report and audio-visual presentation. We strongly encourage you to provide as much feedback as possible through these individual team evaluation forms. Okay, let's take a look at the cumulative evaluation form. Before the first team presents in your league, please take a few minutes to write in the names of each of the teams at the top of this form, in the order that they will present. Also at the top of the form is an overall assessment legend, which you will use as a basis for final marks and rankings. After each team presents, you will take a look at what you recorded at the individual team evaluation form for each item and give the team an appropriate mark on the cumulative evaluation forms. For example, for Team ABC, if your assessment of conducting a thorough needs assessment with the target audience was that the team did excellent, then you would enter an E in the relevant box for Team ABC. The cumulative evaluation form, which we just reviewed, will serve as your guide to ranking the teams at the conclusion of the competition day. After the final presentation, you'll finish completing the form and then use this information to give each team a ranking, with 1 being your first choice. It is essential that each team receive a different ranking, as no ties are allowed. Once all judges have completed their cumulative evaluation forms and ranked the teams, your league coordinator or a member of the Enactus staff will guide you through the final stage of the voting process to pick an overall winner from your league. It is very important that judges, league coordinators, and Enactus staff members not engage in conversation about the results before or during the voting process. The ranking of teams is an individual decision made by each judge. Please note that the results from the league must remain confidential until they are announced at the awards ceremony. So, we have covered the presentation structure, judging criterion, judging tools, and voting process, and hopefully you are now feeling very comfortable with the role you will play as a judge of an Enactus competition. Just one final thought for you as you prepare to serve as a judge. You'll most certainly see some teams today with very sophisticated presentations that use the latest in print and electronic technology. While presentation excellence and creativity is encouraged, it is your responsibility as a judge to look past it. And just remember, your sole evaluation as a judge is simply which Enactus team most effectively used entrepreneurial action to empower people to improve their livelihoods in an economically, socially, and environmentally sustainable way. We're grateful for your time to serve as judge. I will turn it back over to the Enactus representative leading this orientation for a few details about the day. So, thanks again. I hope you enjoy your experience.